Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. We're just going to jump right into today's episode because I want to keep this very informative, simple, straight to the point so that you can go and maximize on this yourself. But today's topic, we're going to be covering exactly how I am going to be losing 10 plus pounds before June. I already started on this. February was my starting point for this. About February 11th, I would say, is when I started, and I've lost 4 pounds since then. I've kind of been at a plateau, so I decided to drop my calories a little bit more this week and increase my cardio. But we're gonna go over how I'm aiming to this. So I've already lost 4 pounds, and that's been since February. So hold on, bear with me. I need to kind of write this stuff out so that I can um be a little bit more organized. So I started February and about 11th, and I was 149.0. I don't care, share my weight, and I've been consistently around this past week 144.8 to 145.0. So I've been staying here for the last 2 weeks, and so I decided, okay, I'm gonna decrease my food by a little bit. I think I was closer to 1800, and I decided to drop down to 1600. So I brought down a little bit more by 200 calories, decreased by 200 calories. And then also I decided I'm going to do 120 minutes of zone 2 cardio a week. So ideally, let me just go back. So I want to, I want to start with basal metabolic rate. So basal metabolic rate is basically how many calories you would burn at rest if you just laid in bed all day. And so typically you can do this your body weight times 10. So for example, I'm about 145, so I would do 145 times 10 and it would be 1450 would be my basal metabolic rate. This is just an estimate. There's really no way to figure out exactly what specifically on the dot being perfect what our basal metabolic rate is. So I'm just going to start with this. This is what I recommend all of you do. Okay, so say you weigh 185. You would do that times 10. Your basal metabolic rate would be 1850. And you want to lose, let's just say you want to lose 10 pounds. And right now, already, you're not very active. You don't even know how many calories you're eating. Maybe you're eating way more than that. You have literally no clue. What I would do is I would at least just start with 1850. That's where I would go with you. Or you could even go 2000. If you say, for example, you get in 7,000 steps a day right now, that's probably going to help you burn an extra 100 calories, maybe. I would bump that up immediately to 10,000 steps. And right there, you're already creating a bigger deficit. So you can create a deficit one of two ways. One being through food, and then the other through cardio. And when I talk cardio, I don't mean just walking. I mean making sure that you are actually doing zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio means keeping your heart rate at a steady pace between 120 and 140 beats per minute. And I would always start on the low end of the spectrum of cardio. Start with maybe you do two 20-minute sessions a week, so 40 minutes total of cardio per week of zone 2, and this has to be structured. And then you'll still want to get steps outside of this, so still make sure that you're counting or setting a step goal aside from the cardio that you do. And I'll just say for reference, most of the time you're going to get 1,000 steps per 10 minutes. So say you get 2,000 steps through your structured cardio of 20 minutes, still need to get 10,000 on top of that, so a total of 12,000 steps. You're like, Hadley, this is so confusing. Not really. I mean, you got to follow it, and once you continue to do it more frequently, it'll become easier to you, and you're not going to have to focus on all these little things. And I know all of this sounds super complicated, but this is if you're wanting to do this on your own, you don't want to coach, you want to figure out how to do it on your own, I'm going to give you all the steps to do so. If you want to take the guesswork out of it, that's where it's important for you to just hire somebody and be like, hey, tell me how much I need to eat, please. And then you go from there and they help you on a week by week basis. But going back to, say you weigh 185 pounds, multiply that, your basal metabolic rate is 1850. This would just be how much you would need if you were laying in bed all day. This is just a rough estimate, because remember, the more mass meaning like your weight, body in general, the more of that you have, like, you're probably not going to have as much of a deficit to lose the fat, because you have so much mass on you, like you have so much excess fat stored. I'm not saying if you're 185 pounds that you're like you have a lot of body fat, but I'm just thinking most of them that come to me and they weigh this, they're typically overweight, they don't exercise much, and if they do, they're very inconsistent. So this is what I'm basing it off of. So say 1850 is your basal metabolic rate. I would start to track. You can either start to eat 1850, which would already put you in a deficit. If you're going to start walking plus strength training, like that's a deficit right there, and you won't even need to touch food. You can keep it at 1850 and just see if structured exercise and cardio you start to lose fat. Now I will say there are going to be some times where you're like, okay, the scale's literally not moving and I'm in my calorie deficit, I'm training, I'm doing my cardio. What do I need to do from here? Then you may just have to put yourself into a little bit more of a deficit. Subtract 100 calories, whatever you got to do, increase your step intake from wherever it's at. What you don't want to do too much at once, and it's not like there's going to be a negative health consequence from that, but if you do too much at once, then your not your basal metabolic rate, yes, your basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate will start to slow down, and so therefore you're going to have to eat less to continue to lose more weight. So that's why I always say, like, you kind of want to start a little bit higher and see like what your body can do with more food, and then structured exercise. But the thing about it is you don't want to just keep adding on cardio so that you can eat more food, because it's kind of like defeating the purpose, because then you have to do all of that cardio just to maintain or just to keep losing that weight. And if you don't love doing cardio, which you should be doing at least 100, or I don't know what the recommendation is, I think 90 minutes a week of cardio. Zone 2 cardio, this is the cardio that's going to keep your heart healthy. So you should already have that structured in, and this should not be, strictly for aesthetic reasons. Like, you should still have cardio in there, so you should honestly be doing that no matter what. That's just my 2 cents. But then also making sure that your training is structured. I would make sure that you are training at least 3 times a week, no less. And this training in the gym should be like intentional. You should be getting stronger each week. You shouldn't just be going through the motions, because while you're building muscle, your body is going to want to use that fuel more for muscle instead of storing for fat. So that's why it's incredibly important that you are going to the gym, you are getting stronger, and you are building that muscle, because also when you are gaining muscle is going to help preserve what am I trying to say? That's not what I'm trying to say. Muscle is going to help you burn more calories at rest. So the more muscle you have, the more your body needs. So keep that in mind as well. Where was I going with that? 3 times a week of strength training. If you're doing 3 times a week, I would make them all full body sessions. I would make sure that you have movements like a squat pattern. When I say squat, it doesn't mean you have to do a barbell squat, but some sort of squat pattern, lunge, hinge movement, and then you can use some accessory machines like leg extension, hamstring curls, adductor, abductor machine, like throwing all of these in the mix of your 3-day split. This will help you just build overall leg muscle, and then adding in the upper body things where you need it. So adding in a shoulder press, adding in maybe some assisted pull-ups, adding in things that are going to hit all parts of your body. Deadlifts, these are good as well. And when I say all these things, this doesn't mean you start super heavy, and I don't want you to feel intimidated if you're new that you have to like do all of these things and you got to lift super heavy. Like, you really have to start slow, but you got to start somewhere is the thing. You can't just go in no plan, just say, oh, I'm going to exercise today, and then you go in and then you spend an hour on the elliptical and you're like, okay, well, what did that do for me? Like, yeah, it made me tired. I feel good. I exercise, but is that really helping me in the long run? Because too, like, losing weight, you don't just want to be losing weight in general, because then you will just start to lose muscle and fat. You want to be able to like really drive your body into losing fat so that you can still work on building muscle, and like that's what's going to give you that toned look that you're after, is by making sure that you are having enough muscle. But also it'll make the process so much easier because you are focusing on body recomposition, and you won't be losing muscle, you'll be losing strictly majority fat, and that's exactly what we want. So, having 3 days of structure, strength training, you don't even have to be there for an hour. You could be 45 minutes. I would recommend that. Wouldn't go over an hour, honestly. And then on maybe those other days, you can do your cardio if you have treadmill at home, or you just go to the days on those. You just go to the gym on those other days and you just strictly do your cardio and maybe sit in the sauna, do something like that, get an extra steps on the treadmill. I would also make sure that you include some core work in that, so that you can work full body, but also still working on your core strength because that's a really big thing you need to work on. Now, when we get into the nutrition piece, like I said, I would utilize something like MyFitnessPal, a tracking app to track your calories. Honestly, the premium version is good. I think it's worth the $79 or whatever it is for a year. Remember, if you're wanting to lose weight, that you're gonna have to change your lifestyle, because if you want to, or if you want to just lose weight and gain it all back, that's totally fine too. But most of you don't want to do that, and you want to actually just like, okay, I need a shift and it needs to stay off and I need it to stay off. And that's the whole point of doing this, because why just do something if you're just going to gain it all back? That's dumb. So, MyFitnessPal, this is where I track your food. You're going to need to get a food scale. You're going to need to weigh your food out. And you can say, well, oh, like my boyfriend, like they've done it and they've lost weight. Men are different and men skip meals and men's hormones are not the same as yours. So, stop comparing yourself to your husband, your boyfriend, whatever, because you're quite literally not the same as them. So, MyFitnessPal, then you have your calories. So, say for example, your calorie deficit, we're just going to go back to that 1850 calories. Now our macros are inside of this. And so our macros, we have our protein, our carbs, and our fat. And so what I like to do is, okay, say you weigh 185. I don't want you eating 185 grams of protein. Maybe give me like your ideal body weight. Okay, say, okay, Hadley, I want to lose 40 pounds. Okay, then that's 145. So then I would just round close to that. I would just do like 15 grams. And honestly, it depends. Like if you like to eat more protein, if you don't, you keep it on the lower end. Honestly, you could even do like 130 grams of protein. That would be fine. So 130 grams of protein times 4. Sorry, I'm gonna have to get my calculator out for this just because I want to make sure that I'm giving you all the correct information. So 130 grams times 4, that's equals 520 calories coming from protein. And then we have carbs and fat left over. So I'm going to do the 1850, which is our calorie deficit, minus the 520, and leftover calories we have is 1330. So we need to figure out our macros for carbs and fat. I like to keep things more carb dense. I do think we should not go under 60 grams of fat. Really 50 grams if you're like really gonna cut down deep and have to dig your calories lower. I don't like to go under 50 because fats are what make up our hormone health, our brain health, and when fats are low, cognition is off. But also carbs are super important for thyroid health, and carbs are our main source of energy. So that's why I kind of like carbs a little bit higher. But I don't follow a specific percentage. Honestly, I just go based off what I think. Fats wise, it just really depends on where the person's coming from. If they're already eating like a higher fat diet, we don't want to just really bring those down super low so we can start to kind of trickle them down. But I'm just going to give like a overall kind of like baseline where I start and just do 65 grams of fat, and I don't think that's bad at all. So I'm going to do 65 times 9 because fat is 9 calories per gram. So that is 585 calories for fat. So now we're going to do the 1330 minus the 585. That gives us 745 calories left over for our carbs. So we're going to do 745 divided by 4 because that's how many calories per gram of carb. And that gives us around 186.25. So I'm just going to put 186. So for macros, to give you that calorie range, we have 130 grams of protein a day. We have 186 grams of carbs per day, and then we have 65 grams of fat per day. And what I like to say is keeping it in a range between, like, when you are tracking your macros, trying to hit within 3 to 5 grams of each of these. So 3 to 5 grams. So say for protein, like between 125 and 135 grams. And then let's say like for the carbs, 181 to 191 grams of carbs, and then for fat, 60 to 70 grams, like just keeping within that range. And then sometimes, if you're going out to eat, it's going to be harder to know to see, like, okay, what exactly is going to get me there. Usually, foods when you go out to eat are higher in fat. So, what you can do is try to get closer to the calorie number for the day, and that would be fine. But sticking within the macros is really important because if you are doing loads and loads of protein, which is fine, it's also like there's not really a benefit to having more protein than you actually need. And then if you're doing like so many carbs and no fat, obviously your hormone health is going to suffer. And if you're doing so many fat and no carbs, your thyroid health is going to suffer. So there's really a strategic approach to why you should follow macros and not necessarily calories, but calories and calories fall in, or macros fall underneath calories. Okay. So hopefully that kind of helps explain that. That's nutrition aspect, right? You're gonna need a food scale. So I'm just gonna try to explain this because you can't see me, so you can't see exactly what I'm doing. But you'll have a food scale and you set your bowl on it. Do not turn the food scale on yet. So you set your bowl, whatever it is on it, then you turn the food scale on. And I like to measure everything in grams. It just helps me a lot more than ounces. And so turn your unit to grams, whatever, then dump in your 100 grams of 9010 beef. And that's exactly what you would input into MyFitnessPal. Is you would find 9010 beef cooked, and then you would type in 100 grams is how much you did. And then you would zero out your scale again, add in your white rice. Say you do 200 grams of that, add that into your MyFitnessPal. Cool. That's going to be like, and then, okay, let's see, zero it out again and add your 100 grams of green beans. So then you add that into your MyFitnessPal, and that is like your meal too. Okay, cool. Then it's going to tell you how many calories it is, what the macros are, but it will start to add things up, and so you can see what things are throughout the day. What I recommend doing is kind of like giving yourself a quote unquote meal plan for 2, 3, 4 days at a time with the meals or the foods that you do have prepped, and then once you do that, you have those foods. And so it's easier to just kind of plug in, and then you can kind of follow the same thing for a couple days. You can switch things out here and there, but you really got to play around with the numbers to make sure you hit it. I specifically like to give myself a meal plan every week, and that way I don't even have to mess with tracking it. But then I will just prep things like every 3-ish, 4-ish days because leftovers are just not the best for you, to be honest. Um, just because they build up in histamines and yada yada. We won't go into that. That can be a whole nother topic, but I just don't think that prepping for a whole week in advance is the best thing for me. But again, you got to do what you got to do, and fresh just tastes a lot better. So every 3, 4 days, I'll prep my foods, and I don't specifically like meal prep. Now, if you have to meal prep and like assemble all of your meals because your work schedule is crazy, you can do that. But what I like to do is kind of ingredient and bulk prep, and then at the end of the week, not the end of the week, but like the next day, then I'll throw everything I need in my bowl that's gonna make up my meal, if that makes sense. So you can meal prep in those like individual containers, or you can do what I mentioned. So that's it on the meals. I think that's kind of it, but as far as like making sure you are on track to losing fat, like for example, like I realized, okay, I hit a plateau. I probably need to drop my calories a bit more. And so that's what I did. And so I'll just report back next week. And hopefully, my goal is to lose at least 1 pound per week. I'm trying to. Okay, so we're at March 27th. Let's see. I'm going to pull up my calendar so I can see how many weeks until June, because I'm trying to lose about 10 pounds before then, which I've already lost 4. And so I really only have 6 to go. So say 6 weeks from now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be like May 8th. But my fat loss hasn't been progressing that much, so I do think that it will take a little bit more time for me to lose 6 pounds, and that would be 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 9 weeks to lose 10 pounds total, which you can definitely do that if you start ASAP. Give yourself, and most people like are going to lose fat quicker than me because I feel like I was already at kind of like a leaner spot. And if you're not at a big of a leaner spot, then you're not going to. I mean, that you're not going to have as big of a problem, I should say, because you already are coming from a spot of like being a little bit overweight, not really caring what you eat, all the things, which is not a bad thing, but I'm just throwing that out there just so that you can know like that's what I typically see with my clients. So, if you want to do that, and so today I'm going to be posting this on April um 31st, I think, or no, I'll just post it not April 31st, March 31st. This is going to be coming out March. I'll just do Monday, March 30th. And so, actually, no, I'm just going to post it today. Why do I keep saying that? So, I'm going to post it today so that you can have like a good fresh start. And that'll give you, so you start next Monday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, like 9 weeks before March or June 1st, you can definitely lose that. So, losing 10 pounds before March or before June 1st. Definitely feasible for you if you follow that approach that I kind of told you what you need to do with your calorie deficit. So, just to recap, say you weigh 200 pounds, okay? You times it by 10, your basal metabolic rate is 2,000 calories. Now, that's not taking into account for you just walking, you moving around, you being at work, all the things. So it could be your actual, like, okay, total daily expenditure could be, 2,500. So maybe you just automatically just bump calories down by 500. You continue walking, and you could definitely see fat loss from that. But you'll want to be a little bit more structured, like I said, with training. So you're preserving muscle and all the things and not losing muscle. And then also cardio, just good for your health, your heart health. But you could literally not change anything but dropping your calories down by that much and then see a good drop. So, and my rule of thumb for like changing things is, give your body a week to be really really consistent. Maybe even a couple weeks before you decide, okay, my weight's not changing, I should drop some like change, like I should increase cardio, I should drop food by 100 calories, whatever it is. Give yourself 2 to 3 weeks of consistency first. And I mean, like, when I say consistency, I don't mean eating your like hitting your calories Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you completely fall off, because that's a 57%. That's an F. You literally, I don't know if that's an F or a D actually. Um, But yeah, you're not gonna succeed if Thursday, Friday, Saturday is completely thrown off the wall, or whatever days you decide to not follow the plan. Like, you still have to stay super consistent on those days. And if your goal really is to lose this weight in X amount of time, those weekends do not have to be crazy eating like an asshole. And I say this all the time, but the power is in your hands to figure out what it is that you want to do. Like, you want to go out to eat every weekend, cool, you can do that, but make sure that you're keeping it as close to what you know is true to be healthy. And what I mean by this is close to the foods that you would normally eat at home. So say you go to a Mexican restaurant, this doesn't mean you're getting beans with cheese and like that stuff adds up so much. That adds like 3,000 calories to your weekly intake. And I'm not saying this is bad, but like, have moderation in the things that you're doing. Or if you go out to eat, be like, hey, can we go here? Or literally order like a steak and vegetables and potatoes. Like, it's very very simple, and I think people just overcomplicate it because they have this idea of like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then they actually get to the place and do the thing, and they're like, well, actually it's okay, like I can have this, like it'll be fine. Like, yes, you can, that's totally fine. I'm not going to sit here and say don't enjoy the meals, but like, just know that it's not going to help you reach your fat loss goals quicker if you keep telling yourself, oh, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, and then you're just going to like keep repeating the loop each and every weekend. So my goal is to just treat the week. I not goal. My suggestion is for you to treat your weekends the same as your weekdays. Cool, you got to eat. Okay, I'm gonna order the healthiest thing on here, whether that be vegetables and a protein, whether that be rice and vegetables and a protein, whatever it is, to try and keep it close. I'm not going to overindulge. Remember, like, is the dinner really about the food, or is it about spending time with the person that you're with? And I think once you can kind of reframe your mind too, of like, not all meals need to be taken so dang, like, oh, I'm starving, this is my cheat meal. Like, you're just taking a really bad approach to it all. And remember, like, it is a lifestyle change too. Like, there's nothing more than I hate going out to eat and then feeling like complete crap after I do it because I just ate way too much. Because why? All because I was quote unquote really good all week. That's almost like defeating the purpose. And I used to do this, and this can be a whole nother topic, but like, I've realized like I don't want to do that anymore. Like, if I want to go out to eat, I want to have self control. I don't want to do it just because, oh my gosh, I deserve this. Don't get me wrong, it's fine. Like, eat a burger, eat a piece of pizza, cool. Like, it shouldn't be a weekly occurrence of like, oh, I deserve this. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this cheat meal. Like, no, that's not what this is about. Remember, it's about creating a healthy lifestyle. And if all you do is look forward each weekend and look forward to like totally binging or drinking, and it's very like counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. So, anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you need further help with, reaching these goals before June comes around, you've got like 8, 9-ish weeks to like really dial it in and make sure it happens. And I do think it's very feasible for you to lose 10 pounds in that time frame. So get with it, persevere, be determined, consistent. Like, okay, I don't have to fall off plan. I don't have to indulge just because somebody else around me is indulging. And I think that will help you so much. So if you need additional help, message me on Instagram. I'll help get you set up. And yeah, you guys got this. Remember, you got this. I give you all the tools, I give you the knowledge. Now go put it to use. Okay. Love you. Bye.